Today we are installing a Dickinson diesel heater because we are going somewhere cold. We previously put a Chinese diesel heater on the boat which works absolutely fantastically, but it doesn't quite cut the mustard. It takes the chill out of the air, but the boat never really gets nice and dry. So we are installing a Dickinson diesel heater with the intention of turning our little tiny boat here into a sauna. We picked up this Dickinson heater off Facebook Marketplace locally here in town, which is a really good way because usually they run you a couple of grand by the time you're all said and done between the day tank and all the flue piping and the different attachments and the fuel lines and everything. But we managed to pick everything up for around $500, which we thought was a really great saving, and we get to reuse something that probably was just going to sit around in somebody's shed for another decade. We already tested it, it does work, and it's a pretty nifty little thing. Everybody's install is a little bit different, so you know, we're going to go through some of the principles of what we've done for ours, and you might be able to use it for yours. So we're going to take you through our process of as we install it here on Uinta.
This project got going a few weeks ago when we started ripping apart our head in order to make room for the diesel day tank that would gravity feed fuel into our new to us beefy heater.
We have situated the day tank in the head, just behind the bulkhead here. It's going to gravity feed the fuel under pressure. Just from the tank here, it's going to run down through the seat, along the bottom and into the carburetor. It'll be kneaded out into the burn chamber and then ignited, and then the flue travels up, and we're going to have to bust a hole through the cabin, through the deck, up into the top of the boat, and the flue gases will travel up through the flue, out the top of the boat, and we can enjoy the nice heat that's left radiating out of the diesel stove and warming up our cozy little cabin here.
We then set to work making a DIY heat shielding enclosure for the stove to live in. This meant redesigning our saloon slightly, with the benefit of adding some additional storage and seating. In typical James and Allison style, we made a goal to string this all together using bits and pieces of materials that we could salvage, or otherwise had lying around.
So this little bit of stainless steel is the scrap that was left over from the galley refit. We got a whole big, I guess it was an old sheet table that was donated to us a couple of years back. We used half of it for the galley refit, and this was the leftover offcut that we've been storing since. And we needed a little bit more stainless steel just to finish up the surround here for the diesel stove, just enough to squeeze out the stainless steel for the heat shielding around the diesel stove. Got the big long section which will be for behind the flue, and then I have enough here for the square that will be bent to make the surround that we've already built. So I think it'll work out really, really well. We've come a little bit along the project, all the plywood's cut out, I've got the cement board fastened on, and now we're just tracing out the stainless steel so that I can cut it, wrap it around the edges, and fit it into the little surround that we're building. I've cut our sheet of stainless steel down to the right dimensions to form our heat shielding that's going to be attached here to the concrete board. I'm just in the process of scoring the underside of it so that I can bend it easier. It's a pretty thick piece of stainless, so I've just been cutting little reliefs in the back of it where it needs to bend, just to make it that little bit easier to bend over to create the nice sharp 90-degree bends that we're trying to get. We're basically trying to mold the stainless steel so it fits around in a little bit of a C channel and then runs back, takes a 90 and then another C channel and wraps around the whole of the concrete board, thus creating a really nice heat shielding for our diesel stove to live in on the boat. Alright, now that we've got the preliminary bending done, it's now time to start hitting it with a hammer, and I've got like a little rubber block here so that I don't put hammer marks into the steel. Let's hope it works out. I think that worked pretty well. We seem to have a fairly decent, sharp 90-degree crease in the stainless, so now time to just move the clamps and then we'll hammer down the top part flat to make our full round over.
For our second time doing metalwork, we were pretty happy with the result. By the way, this isn't a how-to, just the way we did things. You might find yourself with better tools or know how to do this another way, so go right ahead. We ended up adhering some mahogany veneer over top of the plywood enclosure to make it look a little more profesh, if we can say that, in hopes of making this Frankensteinian structure fit with the rest of our boat. And with that, it was time to get to the fun part of installing the heater.
So we're at the point where we've just got everything kind of put in position. We've got it installed. We've got the diesel heater with the bolts going through the cabin sole in the right position. And then we just need to work out how we're going to get the fuel from the day tank into the bottom of the heater. I think we're going to punch a hole through the stainless steel into this little cubby and then again under the settee, and that'll run back into the head and can just feed by gravity nicely down into the carburetor. Alright, we're just going to pull everything apart again, take the stainless steel out onto the dock and drill some holes through it. I guess that the stainless steel is harder than my drill bits, so plan 2. I'm just going to drill a little circle of drill holes and then I'll kind of join them all together with the Dremel and it'll just be a little bit messier than a nice circular hole. It's always the way it goes. Well, rarely does it ever go to plan, but at least we have holes in the things that have to have holes in them now to run the fuel line, so let's just tick that one off as a success. This is our diesel tank. Now, we got it off Facebook Marketplace, so it has been used before, and the boat that it came off kind of had the diesel stove set up kind of differently from how we're going to do it. This diesel tank was orientated horizontally, sitting up on the cabin top. So it was sitting like this, right? Like up on top of the boat, and it had a big fill right on top, and then the outlet was down here. Now, that works great for their application, but on our sailboat, we want to mount the tank like this, so it takes up less space. And in order to do that, we had to send this thing off to a welder to have the old fill hole welded over. We had to change the brackets for the mounting. We had to add a few more bungs here for putting diesel in, as well as the venting. And not being stainless steel welders, we outsourced that to a weld shop and they've done a great job. Cost a bit of money to have it all done, but the day tank is back, it's been cleaned, it's been pressure tested, and it's all good and ready for another life in our boat. So we got to mount it up here in the head. I've already removed the countertop and cut the section of the fiberglass back to actually make it fit in against the bulkhead. So now we just got to drill a couple of holes through the bulkhead so that we can bolt in the day tank in its permanent position over in the head. So one thing we haven't spoken about yet in regards to the diesel install is how are we going to get fuel up into the day tank? There's lots of different ways you could do it. You could just put like a diesel fuel hole up on deck and pour fuel into it. You could run a completely different line from your diesel tank and pump it up there. What we're going to do is use a fuel pump and a three-way splitting valve so that we can have one single pump that we can use to prime our engine, and then we just turn the switch and we can use that same diesel pump to pump diesel up into the head tank. That way we only have to put diesel in one fuel hole through the deck into our main tank, and we can manage the fuel system from thereafter. You might remember a few years ago that we had a little mishap with our fuel pump on our boat. Are you filming? Well, we are dead in the water again. Our bilge keeps filling up with water.
Something is smoke.
We just seen smoke come out of our electric fuel pump.
Turn off.
We think that's toast as well, which is going to make getting to where we need to go really, really challenging. It was all around the time when we didn't really know a whole lot about how the boat worked, and I guess our bilge pump failed because the wiring had shorted out. and our bilge filled completely up with water and then submerged the electric fuel pump, which then subsequently sent smoke going up through the boat. You don't really need a fuel pump on this diesel engine because it has a mechanical lift pump that just pulls the diesel up through the filters and into it, but it is really handy when you're trying to bleed the engine and to prime the injectors and get all the air out of them, because you just press the button and it just pumps fuel until all the air comes out rather than trying to lift the little lift pump. We're going to do a thing that we haven't done ever on our boat, which is crack the diesel lines and put air in them. Which means that we have to replace the fuel pump now if we're ever going to run our engine again.
So just taking out the old fuel pump, a little bit corroded and gross looking. It's obviously been down here for a while. We'll just get these hose clamps off and then we can install the new one. This is the new fuel pump, same PSI, just newer. We're gonna wire it to an on and off switch. That way we can turn the switch on when we wanna draw fuel into the day tank and then just turn it off once it's full. I'm just gonna install the fuel filter and then we're gonna wire it into the boat. Okay, so we've got our new fuel pump wired up. We've got a cable tied so it's nice and neat. We're going to put it into position, put the screws in, reattach the fuel lines, and then we can run our new fuel line to our day tank. She's golden.
I am just tightening these barb hoses to make sure that there's a good seal between the threads, and then we're going to install this T-tap so we can direct the flow of fuel to the engine or to the day tank as desired. I have epoxied a little block of yellow cedar onto the inside of the engine bay so that we can mount our three-way tap. So we're just going to screw it back into place and then we can cut the fuel lines to go between the barb, the pump, the barb and the engine, and then we can run our fuel line from the other side of the tap all the way up to the day tank. So our fuel pump is now installed, which means that we can finally get diesel up to the day tank. We've connected the pipe to the top of the day tank to fill it. And there's one other thing that I want to add to the tank, which is kind of like a fuel gauge, kind of like a metering device. We're going to put a fitting in the threaded bottom hole of the tank, and then we're going to use some clear PVC pipe to run some fuel out of the tank, back up along the side of the tank, and then in through the second fuel hole, which will act as both the vent as well as a return for that fuel to come through. And that way we'll be able to see how much fuel is inside the tank for when we're filling it up and we won't overfill the tank, but also when it's getting low and we need to fill the tank up so that the heater will burn through the night.
Okay, it's the moment of truth. Let's flick our little switch. Yes.
I can hear it. I can smell it. I just can't see it yet, but the fittings are about an inch up off the bottom, so we should see it shortly.
It's very exciting.
It's always good when you do a whole bunch of work and you press a button and then the thing happens that it's supposed to happen. So as long as nothing blows up or shorts out or like fails or catches on fire, then as soon as we open up the day tank to go to the diesel stove and open up the metering device on the diesel stove, we should see diesel come up through the carburetor that we should be able to burn and create heat, which is glorious. Get the diesel in there. So yeah, it's pretty cool. There was a lot of components to this project and it's really neat to see it all finally come together. It's probably one of the more complicated installs that we've done on our boat. Yeah, I'm really stoked about it. We are outside today because it is a beautiful day, and rather than being stuck down in the boat and working, we're going to be up here and working because today is the day that we punch another big hole through the deck of the boat so that we can run the flue for the diesel stove out. This is the exhaust cap here, and we are going to put that through a nice big hole right here in the deck. We're going to be using this 3.5-inch hole saw to make a nice clean hole. We're first going to drill a pilot hole, tape everything off underneath so that it catches the dust, and then we're going to use this nice big hole saw and drill a hole straight down through it. I'm always a little nervous when you're putting a big hole in something that was otherwise waterproof. The reality is wherever the hole ends up is just where the flue is going to be. So in that sense, you can't screw it up. Well, we're pretty happy with the placement. The flue's going to run straight up, probably till about here. It's going to take a 45, come across, take another 45, and go straight through the deck, which is, I think, going to be about perfect. We always knew that it had to exit somewhere in this vicinity, just due to where the bulk wall is, the turtle hatch ends, and then also where the lines are run. So I think it's going to work out really well. Just going to tape a little bit of plastic over the hole so that when we drill through with a hole saw that it doesn't cover the entire cabin here with fiberglass.
Nice.
Because I'm trying to be a neater worker. Aladino has taught me a few things, which I'm very excited to put into practice. I think that'll work out pretty well. It really is just a garbage bag taped to the ceiling, which is kind of like you're putting the dust straight into the bin, right? You don't have to sweep it up or collect it. It just goes straight into the bin this way, which I think is genius. I guess I need a battery. Should have checked the battery. There we go. That was easier than I expected. It's always really interesting cutting a hole in a boat because, you know, holes are like sandwiches of fiberglass, wood and fiberglass. And it's really interesting to note that despite this boat being nearly 50 years old, the core is still completely dry, which is phenomenal. I was actually quite surprised when we punched through it because the glass is actually thicker than the core, which is really neat. They really laid these old boats up like they were brick houses, or wooden boats actually. That is a sample of the core. This is the deck, the wood, and then the rest of the glass. So it's actually really quite thick. And dry. Most importantly, it is dry, which is really the best part of this. I guess I should cover the hole now.
We were not expecting rain. It's so sunny.
Now I have a rain shower. And we should have probably waited for the rain shower to end before we cut a hole in the deck. Cool. We're just finishing up the install here. We've got our Flue cap mounted up on deck so we can work out our run for the Flue. We've got our 45s in, and now we're just going to trim the last little bit of the Flue flush to the top of the stove and join it together with some self-tapping screws, and I think that should be just about installed.
So people say these stoves can be kind of finicky to light. I'm hoping that we'll get the hang of it and it won't be such a hassle. But essentially, I'm gonna turn the dial of the carburetor about midway and then wait 2 minutes. That's gonna allow the diesel to prime the burn chamber.
There it goes. So now we turn it off.
At that point, you can put in your flame, whether it's a match or a piece of paper that's lit, whatever, and that is going to ignite with the diesel and heat up the burn chamber.
Now we let it prime, let it burn off that initial diesel. That kind of just gets the vaporizing metal down there nice and warm, because the idea is that the diesel is vaporized and then ignite. So you just burn that first little bit of diesel, get everything nice and warm, and then it should start vaporizing the diesel. So we'll leave that run, keep an eye on it for the next kind of 10 minutes, and we will then turn the carburetor back on when it's ready and nice and warm, and hopefully nothing leaks, nothing explodes, and we get to sit back and relax and enjoy a nice cold beer by the warm stove.
Oh, yay! It's beer o'clock!
It's beer o'clock. And enjoy all of the new upholstery.
No one's supposed to know my new upholstery.
They're going to see the new upholstery. They're going to know because they'll know that it looks amazing.
Sneak peek, you're not seeing that now. Next time.
Okay, next time. You're not going to see it now. Wow, a lot of smoke coming out of it. I guess that's always normal.
Is that normal?
Until it starts to draw.
Uh-oh. Is this normal, people? This?
Just until it starts to draw. You can start to see the flame. It's pretty cool. Cheers.
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 This project has literally taken us months to complete, so
It has.
this is well deserved.
Yeah, probably the longest project we've undertaken on the boat. Cheers.
No, it hasn't. Come on.
Oh yes, it took months. It basically took us
Golly.
all... No, this took longer. This took all winter. From getting the day tank fixed to getting the stove put back together, cutting holes in the boat, getting the pump sorted out. It really was like a multi-month adventure in project land.
Yeah, it's one of those things you think it's going to be a quick install because you're just like, oh, we'll just hook up a few flue pipes, you know, bolt the stove in, and like you're done. But actually, it took so long. So,
Yeah.
anyways, it's done. We're feeling the heat.
And hopefully it doesn't leak and we don't damage the boat and we're nice and warm to Alaska.
Cheers.
Cheers.
To Alaska.
To Alaska.
Thanks for watching, guys. If you found this one helpful or entertaining or anything at all, if you just enjoyed it, give it a thumbs up. Don't forget to subscribe if you're new here. We'll be bringing you a couple more boat project-y videos in the next couple of weeks while we gear up to sail to Alaska.
Yep, we got a few more things on the line to get sorted out on the boat, but then soon enough, it's up and coming. We're going to cast the lines and we're going to take off and try to get as far north as we can before the southeasterlies blow themselves out.
Yeah,
So,
it's crazy. We're literally going to be leaving here in like 2 weeks, and we still have so much to do. So
yeah, so
we're
come
gonna
on.
so we're gonna wrap this one up because we actually need to still keep working. But we're gonna see you guys next week. So thanks, guys. Cheers.
Cheers.